Staying patient can be really tough, especially when we have the equivalent of an emotional monkey on our back. But did you know that we can actually make a process out of improving our patience? Hi, my name is Ria, and I'm the founder of HopeForge, providing science-based tips, tools, and tricks for improving your life, career, and overall balance and well-being. So today I want to talk about the 5-step process for improving our patience and how we can use this in a daily way, both at home and at work. So first, what is patience and why is it important? Well, patience is basically our ability to suck it up and wait things out until stuff gets better. And of course, things don't always get better, but a lot of times they do. And there actually has been a lot of research on the overall benefits of patience. There was the infamous marshmallow study, which I will link to the research on that down below in the description, so you can check it out if you're not familiar, where kids were basically provided with one marshmallow in a study, and if they held out until the researchers came back in the room, because the researchers left, and they get like 2 marshmallows. But a lot of kids couldn't do it, and they would eat their marshmallows as soon as the researchers were gone. And years later, the kids were tracked down, and those who had the higher amounts of patience were more successful in life, business, and more. And so patience is really a skill. It's not even a complete trait. It's not like it's baked into you and it's one and done. It is a skill that is so important, but also growable because of how human beings function and because of our neuroplasticity, which means that even though it can be hard, our brains can grow and learn even past the ages of sort of traditional learning. So what are these 5 steps to improving your patience? The first is understanding that certain emotions are extraordinarily addictive in nature. First, in how they make us feel, because they make us feel often very good and very powerful in the moment, and how these addictive emotions trigger responses due to how our bodies have evolved to protect us behaviorally. So emotions like anger and desire and even fear, sometimes what they do is they hijack us and they take over our thoughts, psychologically, our emotions and our minds, but they also completely screw with our bodies as well. And they provoke us to act in ways that we wouldn't normally do if we weren't being hijacked. So as an example, you'll often see people who will respond in incredibly outsized ways, like bonkers ways, when they get really mad. Or people where they will act completely out of character because desire, sometimes they fall for someone, has made them behave in ways that you would say, but that doesn't seem like them at all. This is crazy, right? These emotions are very addictive. So pleasure, desire, anger, and even fear can be addictive, right? I mean, anyone who is a horror movie junkie knows that being frightened can feel really good. So step 1, recognize that certain emotions are addictive. They are like coffee or nicotine or more, in recognizing that they have power over us. The second step is to make an assessment about how you feel in the moment right now and whether it is intolerable or uncomfortable. Now, note that I did not give an option for comfortable anywhere in this equation. When these kinds of emotions are triggered, comfort is not something that is really anywhere near us, right? Even when we are having a visceral response to someone who is really sexy and we have a lot of desire for, generally, even if we are enjoying it, we are not comfortable. We are in a state of discomfort, but that has a lot of positive feelings for us, right? Again, because of that addictive nature, of desire. So what you need to do is, when you are looking at your situation, look at it and say, okay, is it uncomfortable? Am I feeling uncomfortable or am I feeling intolerable? The more intolerable the situation is, the more problematic it is. And the more you do want to consider whether or not, instead of being patient, you want to peace out and end. Because intolerable is often dangerous to us in different ways. Uncomfortable, however, even if it doesn't feel good, is the area where we can grow the most. We don't grow when we are feeling comfortable. Comfort is a place of safety. So that's where we have healing. That's where we have fulfillment. But to get us to the steps where we can be fulfilled and more and live a much better life, we do have to push ourselves into discomfort. I'm sure if you think about it, sometimes the moments where you've learned the most came out of periods of the deepest discomfort. So whether you are in an intolerable situation or uncomfortable situation, you need to make that assessment. And you need to look not just at the one situation in the moment. Generally, our experiences are not isolated. Now, if it is and you're just like dealing with some kind of jerk at a bar, okay. But you still have yourself as the constant factor throughout everything. So you do want to look at yourself, but like if you're in a situation like a work situation that maybe is becoming a bit abusive, or a romantic situation or family situation that is troubled or problematic, don't just look at the isolated incident, because you're not going to take everything in context. All right. Look at the entire situation that you are in to judge whether or not things are intolerable versus uncomfortable, because that will help you with the next steps. And again, intolerable, the more intolerable it is, you do want to consider, instead of being patient. So the third step, you want to dive to the root of your pain and discomfort. Generally, what we human beings do is we operate in a top of mind kind of way. So maybe we're having a bad day and some poor unlucky sob goes and says something or sends us an email or does something that really sets us off the edge. And then we respond and often retaliate against them, and then, we feel better. But does that make the badness of the day actually better? No, because if there are root problems and emotions that we haven't addressed, they haven't been resolved, and so we have a temporary band-aid on a long-term issue. That band-aid is going to fall off. So when you are in this place of trying to be patient, find the root of where your struggle is coming from. And you want to recognize it and examine it. So for example, you might be in a relationship. Maybe you have a friend where it is a struggle sometimes to be patient with them. And you want to, instead of looking at some of the things that they do, like let's say they are always late, okay? That is frustrating, but ask yourself, why is it frustrating to me that they are always late? You do not answer because they are always late, because I'm going to tell you that other people often don't care about whether or not people are always late. Or even if they do, they're going to have a different response than you. So you want to drill down to your why and the root of what's going on. The reason you need to do this is because often, again, we do create these overlying reasons for what we do, and they're just excuses. They're not explanations. So you can't settle for your excuses. The fourth step, I can count, is widen your frame. So whenever our emotions are engaged, and again, these are incredibly, incredibly addictive emotions. So when they're trying to hijack you, part of the process is your focus, physical, mental, emotional, is going to narrow in on whatever it is that is provoking you. You need to widen your frame. So if someone has pissed you off, defining them by that one particular action is something that you don't want to do. So as your next step, when you widen your frame, let's say it's a person who is provoking a response, you want to walk through the person that you know them to be, even if it's only a little bit, and how they are more complicated and have more going on for them than just whatever one action or situation there is. And you want to complicate the situation by widening the frame. And I don't mean overly complicate, but there's always a lot going on. And instead of just saying it doesn't really matter, I know what's going on, that person's just a jerk, or, this situation is just ridiculous. That is one aspect of it. Do not give yourself a pass on artificially simplifying down and letting your addictive emotions hijack you. Widen your frame. And even if you have to make a 5-10 point list, walk through the other factors at play. All right. And then The fifth thing that you need to do is you need to positively reinforce each success. So I know that positive reinforcement and rewards are something that we look at for kids and sometimes even for teens, but they're good for everyone, whatever age you're at. And why? Because rewards work on human beings. After all, whether we're in the workplace or we're in personal relationships, we positively reinforce each other all the time for good outcomes. That's what everything from year-end bonuses to just because I love you gifts are. They are positive reinforcement. So don't feel like you should be stronger or better or whatever else, like you should magically have all of these resources, and you shouldn't need positive reinforcement and giving yourself a thumbs up for your success. No, yes, absolutely. Not only should you do that, but you are leveraging your internal resources by being smart enough to reward yourself, right? So what is the most motivating to you. So if you were me as an example, I'm a chocoholic. And so what I might do is for every single time I exert my patience and I go through the 4-step process and I get to number 5 where I'm like, all right, I have widened my frame and I have made my list and considered things. Then what I would do is maybe I would give myself a mini chocolate, like those mini Snickers or I would have a bag of M&Ms and I would give myself maybe like 5 M&Ms. That's me, right? But maybe what you would do is you could always bank your patient's successes. And then if you get a certain number, by the time you have a day off, you could give yourself the gift of going to a place or doing a thing. So whatever it is that really works for you, because you know what motivates you the best, use that as a motivation technique so that you are recognizing yourself for every time you are patient. And that does include also your self-talk. Don't just say, oh, well, I should be able to do it. No, it's hard. First, being patient is hard because we do have these addictive emotions. And secondly, especially if we do have trouble with being patient, that it takes real energy. You are flexing your brain muscle, and that is like working out heavy lifting. It really is. So you should give yourself a thumbs up at the very least for all of the work that you're putting in if you have managed to make it through all 4 steps, right? And the more you do it, the more you want to reinforce and the stronger that you're going to become. So that is the process for becoming more patient. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe in the button below, and I will see you next time with more science-based tips, tricks, and tools for improving your life, career, and more.